now from Fire Station 1 is our West Bloomfield Township Clerk, Debbie Binder. Good afternoon, Debbie. Big time of the year for you and your department at the clerk's office preparing for the election. What is the clerk's department working on right now in terms of getting the residents ready for the election, but also those election workers too?
Well, we just sent our absentee ballots out on Thursday. We sent 15,000 out on Thursday, and I have been very surprised how many people have already received them. So the mail seems to be working nicely. They're out. We should start getting them in this week, so we will go from 0 to 60 overnight. We were busy assembling the ballots last week to get them out. We got them out on time, and now it's just starting to, we'll start taking them in, verifying signatures, checking them into the qualified voter file, all the steps that it takes to intake a ballot. We will be preparing, starting next week, training election workers. We staff up to between 250 and 400 additional people for an election. So it's a lot of training that's involved to train our chair people, our election inspectors, people working the electronic poll book, and our AV runners. So it is probably 10 to 15 training classes that we'll be running, and we'll be recording videos actually starting next week to use for our training as well.
And people throughout the community can get involved in being an election worker here in West Bloomfield. They don't necessarily even have to be a West Bloomfield resident. They can still get involved if they'd like to.
Correct. Anybody can be. They have to be a Michigan elector, and they have to be, if they're not a Michigan elector, it's because they're 16 or 17 years old. And we can take 16 and 17-year-olds to work elections. I do recommend it for our 16 and 17-year-old population, as it's a tremendous resume and college app job. So it's something to think about getting involved in. And yes, they don't have to, people think they have to be a township resident, but they don't. They just have to want to get involved, engage, and they do get paid. I won't say that per hour it's high pay, but people do come back because it's rewarding. And when we get our young people involved, which is really important to me to engage our youth, we make sure that we pair them with other people their age in a precinct so that they don't feel like they're alone. We know that if they don't have a fun day, they don't come back. So we really try to make it that they enjoy the experience and gain the reward that we want them to understand for community service and involvement.
Yeah, there really is so much that goes into making elections effective in local communities, and not just West Bloomfield Township, but all throughout the state of Michigan, around the U.S. Clerks in towns all throughout the country are working on similar things right now to get their communities ready for the election on November 8th. And you mentioned the absentee ballots already been sent out. Some of them have already actually been received also by residents. Those go out about 40 days prior to the election. We had some news this week that was really positive news. A bipartisan bill in the State House that would allow clerk's offices in cities and other municipalities with at least 10,000 residents to pre-process some of those absentee ballots before election day. That doesn't mean that they're counting these ballots. What does it mean when they say pre-process, and how does that help clerk's department like yours with absentee ballots?
So for us this year, it won't affect us because we are working with the county to process our absentee ballots, so we're using their AV counting board. But it was a necessary step based on the volume and the increase in absentee voting. So you are 100% correct, Tyler. We are not tabulating them on election day. It is a pre-processing day where you go ahead and you go through a very prescribed process to open the envelope, verify that the ballot inside matches the ballot number that's on the outside. You remove that ballot from the envelope, leaving it in the secrecy sleeve so you don't see the ballot itself. And now you have those ballots removed from the envelope, the numbers matched, so that on election day all you're doing is removing the stub and processing or tabulating the ballot. So it is a helpful step in terms of the time. I know in the last election in 20, we used all 10 hours that we had of pre-processing, and we were still there till 1 in the morning on election day. So if people want to get the results in time, which they do, they want timely results, it's a really important step to allow clerks the flexibility to pre-process and be ready to tabulate on election day.
Yeah, something that was really well-received news across the political spectrum here in Michigan earlier on this week when that legislation was officially passed in both the House and the Senate at the state level. It had been a discussion in the past. It certainly was a discussion following the 2020 election when that was used due to the rash increase in absentee ballots as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and something that benefits everyone across the political spectrum to be able to vote in absentee, as of course was a result of a referendum in 2018, voted affirmatively by you and I, the electorate here in Michigan, but also to these clerks' departments to be able to help them get as many people voting as possible, and having those options be available also to people. So you mentioned absentee ballots have already been sent out, but if someone's in West Bloomfield and they said, oh darn, they've already been sent out, I must be out. I know I'm going to be out of town on election day now because something came up. How am I going to vote? They can still vote absentee.
As you mentioned, Proposal 3 of 2018 gave everybody the right to vote by absentee. It's a constitutional right, no reason absentee voting. So they can vote for no reason by absentee ballot. The absentee ballots are available at the clerk's office until 4 p.m. the Monday prior to the election. So they really can, up to last minute, request an absentee ballot. They cannot get one on Tuesday unless they're a new registrant, and then they can get one. Every absentee ballot must be received in the clerk's office by 8 p.m. on election day. So a postmark on election day doesn't work. It has to physically be in the clerk's office. So we recommend people use the drop box, but they have time. Another important thing, Tyler, is that we are open on Saturday before the election, November 5th, for absentee voting. So anybody can come vote, come receive an absentee ballot, they can take it with them, they can vote it there. On Monday, if somebody votes on it by absentee ballot, they cannot take the ballot from Town Hall. They have to vote it at Town Hall. But again, it's available, and it's an option available to anybody. It doesn't have to be that you're on vacation or you're out of town. Everybody can vote absentee. One important thing I'd like to mention, though, is any of our snowbirds, our college students, our seniors who are relying on the mail, our military overseas voters, if you wait till last minute, that ballot may not get to us. So if you're in a position you have to rely on the mail, make sure you send that ballot early. Do not wait till last minute. And if you have the ability to bring it by Town Hall, put it in the drop box or bring it into the clerk's office, we recommend that. That drop box is checked multiple times a day, at least 4 times a day during an election. So your ballot is safe. You get it into our ecosystem, it will be counted. But the best way to make sure it gets into that ecosystem is where you can bring it to Town Hall, and if you do rely on the mail, mail it early.
Well, those election results are not official until they're certified by the county and then move up through the state's counting boards as well. So when those ballots come in late and they don't get there on election day, they just don't count, right?
They would show because anybody can check their ballot at michigan.gov/vote to show when we sent their application, when we received their application, when we sent their ballot, when we received it. If the ballot arrives late, it's rejected, and it would show in there as rejected. And we have a copy of each ballot and when it was received and why it was. They're all time date stamped when they arrive, and it would show when they're rejected. What I was really happy to see in August, we had some days that we didn't have mail, and there were definitely staffing issues with the post office that we thought were going to affect our ballots coming back. Almost all the ballots that came back late, and there aren't that many, it's not like there's a pile, but almost all of the ballots that came back late in August were because they were requested late, not because they were stuck in the mail. So that was encouraging.
We're joined by Debbie Binder, West Bloomfield Township Clerk, on today's Fire Station 1 Fire Department Open House live coverage on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. That's happening now until 3 p.m. at Fire Station number 1, just north of West Bloomfield High School. Park at the high school, come on over to Fire Station number 1, either by foot or by bus. Shuttles provided by West Bloomfield Parks. And Debbie, going back to absentee ballots, because anybody can vote by absentee ballot, they can submit them by mail or by the drop box before Election Day. Scott Dick's advocate, what stops them from also going to the polls and submitting their ballot there too?
There are such procedures in place that if people work an election, they would be tremendously reassured. If somebody requests an absentee ballot, and again, that 4 o'clock p.m. Monday is a statutory hard stop. If somebody walked to my window at 4:01, I cannot give them an absentee ballot after 4 o'clock. After 4 o'clock, we run a list from the qualified voter file that will show every absentee ballot that's been issued. Anybody does have a right to surrender their ballot or to vote in the precinct if they've already been issued an absentee ballot. But the chairperson will call the town clerk's office we will reject the ballot that they were issued, and they will be allowed to vote in the precinct. But there's only, each person gets one ballot if they have been issued it by absentee. What I do want to encourage people, because we did learn from one of our trainings that people are choosing to vote exactly like that, to get an absentee so that they have a sample ballot and then go to the precinct. And that's not the way to get the sample ballot. We have sample ballots that are yellow and white at the clerk's office, so you can get your own precinct-specific absentee ballot at the clerk's office. Or again, you go to michigan.gov/vote, enter your information. You'll be able to see your actual ballot that you'll be voting on. It's helpful. You know, I'm a poll voter. I like to go to the poll and feel the energy and get my sticker. But I take my sample ballot, and it just makes it easier to transfer who I'm going to vote for, what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I get my sample ballot. I go to different nonpartisan advocates for more information, too. Mark that off. Take that with me. Get in and out of the polls when I go on election day.
So don't use an absentee ballot to have a sample ballot. We have those available.
Right. And if you're going to use an absentee ballot, might as well submit that and have all that information right away. And there's so many different ways to do that. By mail, of course, dropping it off at the clerk's department and in those drop boxes as well at West Bloomfield Town Hall. Still on both sides, or just one on one side?
Really on both sides, but we're working hard to habituate people to use the drop box on the west side just because of the size. It can hold a lot more ballots. The right one, the one on the east side by the police station during an election, gets very full frequently. So I don't know if you saw our plethora of signs we had out last time, really trying to rehabituate people to turn left and go to the west side, and it worked. We used to get 3 to 1 in the small box, and now we have 3 to 1 in the large drop box. So if you have a choice, we request that you use the one on the west side just because of sheer size.
We're joined by Debbie Binder, West Bloomfield Township Clerk, here at the Fire Department Open House, happening now until 3 p.m. More information on the Clerk's Department can be found at wbtownship.org. Just go navigate to their department section and go over to Clerk's office for more information. Or you can also call them 248-451-4800 and request the Clerk's Department from that menu, 248-451-4800, to get in contact with West Bloomfield Township and talk to the Clerk's Department. Debbie, anything else at this time that a resident should be aware of coming up on election day, or as they prepare to go to the polls or vote by absentee ballot?
No, just make sure, if you aren't out there voting, your voice isn't heard. Whether you choose to vote by absentee ballot or in a precinct, they both count. Your vote counts equally either way. So it's important to make sure that your voice is heard, that you're out there voting, whichever way you choose. It is your right to choose how you vote, but it's important that you vote. When I register our youngins, I always tell them, you're halfway there, but if you don't vote, your voice isn't heard. So, and one other thing I want to add, Tyler, for those, I know Alana's Foundation is here today doing flu shots, and I want to add, for those that may not be able to make it today, there's a second opportunity to have your flu shot through Alana's Foundation, which, again, if those who don't know, is a local girl who lost her life to the flu. So it's a really great opportunity to work with a local organization. But you can come to the clerk's office between 3:30 and 5 on this Thursday, October 6th. So we will be there. I do recommend everyone comes early, and then there's a line. And if you come a little bit later, there's no line. So try to plan to come a little bit later. But you can get your flu shot at the clerk's office. Just check in, and you can pre-register. It's helpful. There is a spot online to pre-register, but if you can't, don't worry. You can still come get your flu shot on Thursday between 3:30 and 5.
AlanasFoundation.org is their website for more information on the flu shot drive. Again, Thursday, October 6th at West Bloomfield Town Hall at 3:30, happening until 5 p.m. Today, we're at West Bloomfield Fire Station number 1 for the Fire Department Open House. That's happening until 3 p.m. today. Come on out and join us, park at West Bloomfield High School, and come right on over to the Fire Department Station number 1 to learn more about the Fire Department, the Police Department, and so many other organizations throughout West Bloomfield. Debbie, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tyler, and thanks for always. You are so good at helping us get our message out, so appreciate your help always.